Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Advanced Grammar from the Islamic University of Gaza. This is Rafat Larayir. Today, we have a very interesting topic. Probably I mentioned it in passing previously. This is a grammar topic called subject-verb inversion. And when we talk about subject-verb inversion, it happens when the verb, mainly the auxiliary verb, comes before the subject. Naturally, in English, we have the word order follows the subject, then the verb, and if we have object, then we have the object. So you say, I saw my friends yesterday. The book was interesting. They can swim. This is the normal subject verb order of statements of English. But usually when we make questions, we change this order. If the sentence is, she was born in Rafah, she was born in Gaza, the question is, was she born in Gaza? Or where was she born? But today we're not talking about the subject-verb inversion in questions. We talk about that in certain expressions, adverbs, adverbial expression that are usually used to express negative. There is a long list. We're focusing on some of these issues today. So if you start a clause, if you start a sentence with these words, remember you have to change the word order of the sentence. The auxiliary verb or the verb to do has to be before the subject, not after the subject. And many people ask, when do we invert this? When do we start with negative verbs or adverbs in order to invert the subject and verb? Usually to express emphasis, to emphasize something, and sometimes to express shock. If you are surprised, you're shocked about something, you use this poetic, literary style in your writing and even in your spoken English. And many people use the subject-verb inversion to show off, just to tell the readers or the audience or the viewers that my English is really good, that I can play with the word, word order. But if you want to use these expressions, try to use them sparingly. Don't overuse them. If you overuse them, you lose their emphasis, their beauty. So the list includes never, no sooner, nowhere, by no means, not only, not until, little, seldom, hardly, barely, scarcely, under no circumstances, and only after, among others. So if you look at this sentence, seldom have I heard such beautiful music. Look at beautiful expression. Seldom have I. It's like as if you're asking question, have I heard such beautiful music? But this is not a question. Remember, you never add a question mark at the end of a sentence where we have a subject-verb inversion because of a negative or adverb. Originally, the sentence was, I haven't heard such beautiful music. I have seldom heard such beautiful music. I've never heard such beautiful music. But with seldom in this position here, this too is a beautiful sentence, by the way, because the word seldom is seldom used. So if you begin the clause with seldom, you invert the subject and the verb. Whatever the subject and verb, you invert them. If we have an auxiliary verb, verb to be, verb to have, modal verbs, you add them before the subject. If you don't, if you have a main verb like go, play, eat, study, whatever, you use do, does, or did, depending on the verb, the tense. So the same thing applies here to not only did the company lose profits, but it also had to lay off workers. Originally, the sentence is, The company did not only lose profit, the company, okay, I'll write this one. The company not only, no subject verb inversion here, not only lost profits, but it also had to lay off workers, to tell workers, go home, you no longer have jobs, which is really sad. So look at this. This is the subject, the company. This is the verb, lost, because it is a main verb, and it's in the past, lose, lost. When we invert the subject and the verb here, when we start with not only, you have to make a question format. A verb has to be before the subject. So because we have past simple, lost, we use did. And always remember, after do, does, did, we have the infinitive verb here. With only, there is only in, only on, only by, only at, only recently, only once. All these expressions, if we begin the clauses with any of them, we invert the subject and the verb. Look at this. Only in an emergency should you use this exit. Look at the verb before the subject. Only recently did she return from abroad. Only by asking questions can you learn. What a beautiful sentence this is. Only by asking questions can you learn. So when sentences begin with these expressions, with the word only, sometimes, you invert the subject and verb in the second clause, like the examples here. Only if you begin with only if, only when, only because, only after, only until, you invert the subject and the verb, but in the second clause, not in the first one. So only if you have a serious problem should you call Mr. Franklin at home. When you are satisfied, is the sale considered final? With so, we have two expressions here. So plus adjective or so plus participle. So rare is this coin that it belongs in a museum. So confusing was the map that we had to ask a police officer for direction. So rare is, so confused was the student that he didn't answer the question. So embarrassed was the baby that she cried. Now, in certain expressions of place, we usually invert the subject and the verb. And pay attention here, sometimes the verb to be comes before the subject, and sometimes the ordinary verb, the main verb. You don't have to use a verb to be, a verb to do. So in front of the museum is a statue. Off the coast of California lie the Channel Islands. So this is originally the Channel Islands lie off the coast of California. So we don't say do the Channel Islands lie. We bring only in expressions of place. We bring the verb, no matter what it is. If it is a verb to be, modal verb, verb to have, main verb, you bring it before the subject. First came a police car, then came an ambulance. There is order here, first and then came an ambulance. Now, there is also a very interesting way to invert the subject and inversion with so and neither, or neither in American English, to express agreement. I know some people replace neither with nor. So if you look at these expressions, beautiful expressions, again, to express agreement with something said by somebody. If the sentence is, the first part of the sentence is positive, you use so. If the first part of the sentence is negative, you use neither. This is the difference. So for positive, neither for negative. I suggested that he should take the job. I suggested past, because pay attention to the tense here. Whatever the tense, the first tense is, you repeat it in the second part. I suggested that he should take the job. So did all his friends, meaning his friends suggested that he should take the job. Everybody knows that, and so should you. I love South Korean movies. Really? So do I. So I love, so do I. It's like you, like as if you're making a question. Do I? Should you? Did all his friends? In a negative form, you use neither. I am not going to Andy's party tonight. Neither is Susan, or neither am I. My family have never been on a holiday abroad. Neither have mine. Neither have mine. We'll talk about this later on, but when you delete if in the second and the third forms of the conditionals, you also invert the subject and the verb. Look at this first sentence. If I were in Jerusalem, I would pray at Al-Aqsa Mosque. If you delete if, look at this, this is important. If you delete if, remember, you create two simple sentences connected with a comma, which is wrong. Remember, I told you the comma is everything in this course. So in order to indicate that there is something deleted, you bring the verb before the subject. Were I in Jerusalem now, I would pray at Al-Aqsa. The same thing happens here, but I already did this. I have, originally the sentence is, I would have helped him if he had told me. And this could be very confusing because if is in the middle of the sentence. For some people, it's like, okay, what's going on? That's why the sentences with deletion, with subject-verb inversion are really, really interesting. And they show how good your English is. So I would have helped him if he told me he needed money. If he had told me he needed money, I would have helped him. If you delete if, the same thing happens. You bring had before the verb, the subject, had the verb before the subject he. I would have helped him had he told me he needed money. Now, many students would be like, okay, but where is the subordinator? Where is the connector here? Why is had before he? Because something is deleted. And this is, in many ways, an advanced level of English, because you pay attention not only to things in the sentence, but to things that are deleted, not in the sentence. And this is why students who use these expressions, English learners who use these expressions, show a really good command of the English language. So try to use them, but don't use them a lot. Use them sparingly. Remember when we spoke about the fanboys, we said nor has a special case because nor also is followed with a subject-verb inversion. It's followed with the verb, the auxiliary verb, and then the subject. We will not visit him, nor will we send a gift. She can't remember the same whatever verb you have here, you just repeat it there. It's easier. But again, you don't repeat not, because nor is the negative. So you don't say we will not visit him, nor will we not, nor will we send a gift. She can't swim, nor can she dive. He didn't come on time, nor did. Look at this. Will, nor will. Can't, nor can. Didn't, nor did. So these are more examples. Okay. Never will Palestinians surrender. Originally, the sentence is Palestinians will never surrender. Scarcely had I stepped out when the telephone rang. Hardly had I reached the station when the train departed. No sooner, here with scarcely and hardly we use when in the second part, but with no sooner we use then. No sooner had she read the telegram than she started crying. Never have I seen such a mess. I have never seen such a mess. Little, I love using little in this scenario. Little did I know he was her father. Like, to express shock, to express surprise. For example, if you're trashing somebody, a woman, a girl, a lady, to a man, and then you realize that this man is her father. So you say, little did I know he was her father. It means I didn't know he was her father. Note that you don't have to invert the subject verb all the time, as long as you do not begin with the negative adverbs or adverbial expressions. So the sentence could naturally be, Palestinians will never surrender. I had scarcely stepped out when the telephone rang. I had hardly reached the station when the train departed. Okay. More examples. It was not only cold, it rained every day as well. You could say not only as well, not only, but also. If you begin with not only was it cold, but it rained every day as well. Or but also it rained every day. Some children shouldn't play alone near the river under any circumstances. I love this. Under any circumstances, or under no circumstances. So, under no circumstances should small children play alone near the river. Under no circumstances, negative. And there's emphasis here, there's warning, don't do this. Somebody goes to the doctor, realizes he or she has heart problems, and the doctor gives him or her advice, and he says, under no circumstances should you exercise. Under no circumstances should you go to the gym. We had no sooner arrived than it started raining. No sooner had we arrived than it started raining. The victim was at no time present during the trial. The victim was at no time present during the trial. At no time during the trial was the victim present. At no time was the victim present during the trial. There has seldom been so much rain in this part of the country. Seldom has there been. Just bring the auxiliary before the subject. Remember, if you don't have an auxiliary, you don't have a can, could, shall, should, will, would, have, has, had, okay, am, is, are, was, where, you have a main verb. In these cases, we use do, does, did to create the subject, to create the verb, the auxiliary verb before the subject. It was only then that I realized how exhausted I was. So only then, the main verb here is realized. Only then did I pay attention to this. This is significant. After do, does, did, always go for infinitive. Always. Only then did I realize how exhausted I was. It wasn't until later that I noticed the money was missing. We say money was missing, the money was missing, something is missing, something is lost. Not until later, that's the adverbial expression. Again, the main verb is noticed. In the past, we use did. Not until later did I notice that the money was missing. We had never seen, because we have had an auxiliary verb already, we don't need to bring do, does, did. Never had we seen so many people in one place. We had never seen so many people in one place. Employees must, on no account, leave the building during working hours. On no account means under no circumstances. On no account, under no circumstances, must employees leave the building during working hours. Okay, there are two exercises here for you. You can pause the video and try to answer these questions. The first exercise says, rewrite the following sentences, putting the adverb first and inverting the subject and the verb. So I have seldom heard such a beautiful voice. He had hardly sat down for dinner when someone knocked on the door. I have never heard such utter nonsense. They not only looted the shop, but also set fire to it. Maybe I can give you more sentences. She hardly does any work. He never played well. So I'm creating sentences where you need to bring a verb to do, a verb to like do, does, or did. So pause the video, try to work on these sentences. Begin with seldom, hardly, never, not only, hardly again, and never again. These are significant questions also. They will be in your final exam. I already asked you a couple of questions like these. So this is very easy, actually. In many ways, when they are this TOEFL format, all TOEFL format questions, they're not difficult. If the sentence begins with the negative expression, the adverb, not only, again, hardly, barely, seldom, scarcely, soon after these expressions, there must be a subject-verb inversion, meaning there should be a verb and then the subject. So in these cases, you need to pause the video now and try to answer the questions before I do. So in this question, for example, okay, not only, so you remember, okay, not only should be followed with a verb, then a subject. So which one is the right answer? So subject, verb, subject, verb. So you eliminate B and C. Provide or do trees provide? Remember, we said if we have a verb to be, am, is, are, was, were, modal verbs can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, must, have, has, had. You bring this verb before the subject. If you have an ordinary verb, play, write, eat, study, in whatever tense, you bring do, does, did. So think about this. This is another beautiful question. Not until the 17th century. If you look here, we don't have a verb and a subject in the sentence. So you need to bring this. This one is easy, basically easier, because you have two cases here where we have a verb, then a subject. But here, this is more confusing because you have verb, subject, verb, subject, verb, subject. But think about this because this plays on the word order. Pause the sentence, try to answer this question. Rarely, okay, I love this. Rarely more than 50 miles from the coast. Rarely, we need a verb and then a subject. But look, we have the verb grow, grow, grow. So this is the main verb. What do we use to make a question? If it says trees grow, how do you ask a question? It's going to be the same. Another rarely. So rarely, have or are. Now this is interesting because it's like two questions in one, because there is active, passive, and You have to choose between have spotted or are spotted turtles. So is this active or passive? It's going to help you to choose one over the other. And finally, this is error analysis, error identification, where you pick the part of the sentence that has an error. Not only rust corrodes the surface of metal, but it also weakens its internal structure. Pause the video again and think about it. Look at this. The sentence begins with not only a negative expression. So after it should be verb subject, not subject verb. Okay, I'll stop here. And thank you very much. Try to do the exercises and try to use these expressions in your writing. As a start, there's no problem if you overuse them, but later on, please try to use them sparingly. Use them when needed. This is what makes this beautiful. Thank you very much. Good luck and see you soon.